It was an amazing interview yesterday. Kevin Freeman argues that the 2008 collapse was coordinated and a coordinated takedown of the United States. He did 2 interviews after he wrote a report for the Pentagon, and the media went to sleep and shrugged it off. Here's a guy who briefed the Pentagon on economic terrorism, and then it was leaked about a year ago. Somebody in the Pentagon said the American people should read this. He says sovereign wealth funds and Middle Eastern activists took down the markets, and they are actively continuing. Those who hate America and capitalism have a common enemy, and they have acted as one. The same people in on this funding are funding Occupy Wall Street, but the media doesn't care to even look. Well, probably because it doesn't work well in a soundbite, or it goes against their worldview. I've seen it happen in the news industry. We wanted to bring back Kevin Freeman, author of the new book, Secret Weapon, How Economic Terrorism Brought Down the U.S. Stock Market and Why It Can Happen Again. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great, Glenn.
Okay, last night we talked about who was involved, quickly run down the list of who could have taken down the stock market.
Right. When we did motive, means, and opportunity, the suspects included Islamic terror states, Islamic radical groups like Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, foreign actors that would be former communist Russia, the Chinese, Venezuela, Iran, and so forth.
Who do you feel you have a culprit, or is it a little bit of all of them?
It seems like they were all aware or in on it. I mean, we talked yesterday about how Russia had approached the Chinese to destroy Fannie and Freddie. And so they seemed like they were aware of what was taking place. And certainly Iran and Venezuela, Chavez and Ahmadinejad, were celebrating when the market went down. So it seemed, and bin Laden said repeatedly, attacking the U.S. economy is our most important target by all possible means.
When I was first talking about this perfect storm, this is about 8 years ago or so, and I said there's going to come a time when the enemies of this country are not coordinated. They'll just see opportunity. Somebody will start something, or there will be an unraveling somewhere, and that's when multiple enemies of the country will say, go, now, 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 now. Is it possible that this is what this is? That these people are dogpiling because they see huge opportunity?
That's how it works in the stock market.
Yeah.
If you see a stock going down, then people will pile in. And since it was a financial attack, that is very likely.
You talked today on radio, and if you missed Kevin's appearance on radio, you please go find it on the, let's highlight it, put it on the Blaze, or put it at GBTV.com, put a highlight of this interview on the radio today. But we talked about somebody was actually making bogus shares of Bear Stearns. They were selling shares that didn't exist.
Right. That's
right?
Naked short selling. Exactly.
Okay. But like, there was how many shares originally, and then within like 4 days it was like 13 million shares.
Yeah, the numbers are so staggering they're hard to remember,
right,
but
okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Last night we ended with the meltdown of the U.S. economy, and you talked about 3 phases. And you said we're in phase 3.
Right.
Do you want to go through these phases? What's the most effective use of your time?
Sure.
Here?
Let's explain the 3 phases.
Okay.
Because, and these, again, may not have been coordinated. These may be by different actors at various points.
Okay.
But it's all intended negatively against the United States.
Okay. So you want to show it?
Yeah, I'd love to. Okay. Phase 1, which is great, right here. Phase 1 was OPEC. This is a symbol for OPEC. And OPEC has, since 1970, said we're going to use our economic weapon against the United States. They've embargoed us. That was one of the reasons for the formation of OPEC. Now, not all OPEC nations are bad, but this represents the oil producers, primarily in the Middle East. The Iranians, Saudi Arabia, others. OPEC has a necessary need for as high a price of oil as possible. In fact, if you're in Iran, they need $80 a barrel. And this is another study I did for the Pentagon. If they don't get $80 a barrel, their society doesn't work.
Right.
This represents the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. They did a study, and I contend that there was speculation in the market that drove the price of oil from $50 a barrel in January 2007 to $150 a barrel by June 2008. That's a tripling in price without any supply disruption. Historically, if they want to raise prices, they disrupt supplies. The new way is you saber rattle, threaten to close the Straits of Hormuz, and people get scared and they bid up the price of oil. I contend they also use the financial markets, that they threw money, excess, that $1 trillion went in from the Western economies to the Middle East when the price triples from 50, they make $1 trillion more.
We're paying for our own destruction. We're financing our own destruction.
We're paying. Jim Woolsey, the former CIA director, is a good friend. He says, this is the only war since the Civil War that we've paid for both sides.
Right, right.
So OPEC has an incentive to see high prices. How I suggest they did it is part of what they did is they used the commodity futures markets.
Okay.
And I'm not the only one who says this. George Soros has said it. The chairman emeritus of economics department at MIT.
Everybody was saying it's speculators.
Well, that's not true. The hedge funds got in and begged, they argued the same thing that you've shown repeatedly. They get in and argue, no, it's not speculation. Yes, it was speculation. Any way you slice it, you don't triple the price of oil
without an event.
Without an event, and having supply go up and demand go down.
Right.
It was speculation. And the CFTC said no speculation, and they said that in a report that came out in June 2008. Now, we changed the CFTC. We have Gary Gensler comes in, and he comes back and says, well, maybe there was some speculation, and later reports have indicated there might be speculation.
Okay.
This is the same group, by the way, that oversaw MF Global. So it's interesting.
Really interesting.
Yes.
What is ICE?
ICE is the Intercontinental Exchange. It is one of the dark markets I talk about in my book. And so when ICE is, when people are trading oil in ICE, you can't see it. You don't know who's behind it. It's a dark market.
Okay.
So it's non-transparent and it's hidden.
Okay. So, and this is something that I laid out at the time. I think I marked, I think I may have said $140 per barrel is our tipping point. When it was going up, I said, you hit a sustained 130, 140 per barrel, and you're going to see this economy come apart at the seams. And that's what happened. Phase one was get people to put all of their money into energy instead of being able to pay for their house. Then you start to deteriorate with Fannie and Freddie, and all the mortgages all go under, right?
Right. That sets up phase two perfectly.
Okay. How much time do we have here? Let's go to phase two.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Phase two, and when I say that bear raids took place in the market, it's not just me who's saying it. George Soros said it. His op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. I've got his book over there, What Happened to the Crash of 2008.
Oh, no.
A bear raid is essentially a run on the bank. And what they did was they panicked people regarding Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, and all of that. Fannie and Freddie, and we've got the Russian flag here, which is interesting. Fannie and Freddie were hurt because of phase one.
Okay.
People weren't able to pay their mortgages.
Correct.
Russia then dumped their Fannie and Freddie holdings on the market. They told the Chinese and told and they told Paulson. So that is a serious problem that they're attacking, and that's creating all this environment of panic. The Muslim Brotherhood, by the way, created Sharia-compliant finance. Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Brotherhood, in the 1930s, I believe, created Sharia-compliant finance and called it jihad with money. And what Sharia-compliant finance was able to do was, in October 2007, Wall Street Journal runs an article that says Islamic finance meets modern hedge funds. They were able to short sell using the techniques of George Soros because of this new ruling from the Sharia authorities.
Which is not a coincidence.
Is not at all a coincidence.
Something we've never talked about this on the air, but America, I looked in when I lived in New Canaan, Connecticut, and that's all Wall Street. 80% of that town, maybe 90% of the town is all Wall Street. And so I knew a lot of people on Wall Street when this thing happened, and I started looking into Sharia compliant trading and everything else. There's something very dark, very, very dark going on there, and it's all undercover. I mean, nobody is talking about it, nobody's investigating, nobody's even looking at it, and it's extraordinarily dangerous.
Well, and some of the Sharia experts that are able to rule what's compliant, what's non-compliant, they're jihadists. Their statements are absolute, we want jihad with money. One of them called it.
Okay, quickly let's run down the...
Okay, well, I want to mention this is the PLA who wrote the book Unrestricted Warfare I showed you yesterday. They said a stock market crash using his techniques is the way to bring down America, and these guys have learned from that.
Got it.
Okay, NASDAQ was hacked. I mean, it was flat out hacked. And I was talking to the FBI about this, and I said, this is a national security risk. And of course the FBI, well, we can't confirm or deny is what they would tell me. But I noticed 2 months later the NSA was in looking at that. And if the NSA is looking at it publicly, it was said, if they're looking at it, it's probably an act of terrorism that's taking place. And we know Lehman Brothers was a target. George Soros said that Lehman Brothers was the linchpin, that when they fell with Bear Stearns from naked short selling, that was what triggered the collapse. Barclays is interesting because Barclays was picked to buy Lehman. And there's a whole long story that I get into the details in the book. I don't think we have time to get into it now. But they did not buy Lehman. They bought the Lehman assets out of bankruptcy. By the way, Barclays helped create with the Sharia authorities the Arbun transaction that allowed short selling. And then this was a target. They come in and buy them. Barclays at the time was heavily owned by 2 sovereign wealth funds out of the Middle East.
Holy cow.
Then they bought Lehman Brothers, they bought them out of bankruptcy for a fraction, and then they sued later because they bought them so cheap that 2 months later, in December 2008, Barclays had to write up the assets. Everybody else was writing everything down. Barclays was writing assets up in December 2008.
Okay. We have such a short period of time. Let's go to... we know about AIG. Anything, just hit highlights here on anything that you feel is...
AIG wrote the credit default swap insurance and almost went under, and if AIG had not paid out, Goldman Sachs would have gone under.
Okay.
So it almost destroyed
Tiffany,
all of it.
push Adam back just a few minutes, just like 5 minutes. We have Adam Carolla coming on, and I've been waiting to talk to him for a long time, but I want you to get through phase 3.
Okay. Phase 3 is, I believe...
This is where we are now.
This is where we are now. When this man was killed by SEAL Team 6, they found a document in his possession that was a strategy for destroying the economies of Europe. And it describes some of Phase 2, but Phase 3 wanting to ruin the sovereign credit of Greece, Italy, when just 2 years ago...
Specifically those countries?
No, I don't know. I haven't seen the document.
Okay.
It's all classified. I've only read the German press reports. But I know the Germans came out and banned naked short selling and naked credit default swaps.
Because of that?
I don't know, but the timeline fits. I also know that the Germans' spy agencies have reported financial terrorism activities. And it's not been picked up in the United States.
It only makes sense. That's why they hit the World Trade Center. They were going after our symbol of power, our symbol of wealth, and they really thought that they could collapse the economy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the BRIC nations have seen the sovereign credit of the United States and seen the status of the dollar and the downgrade, and Brazil, Russia, India, and China have begun to trade in their own currency. If we lose the reserve status of the dollar, our interest rates will spike. It's game over.
Game over.
We can do that over 10 years.
Yeah.
If we do it over 10 days, we're finished.
Okay. So, Kevin, can I have you back? I know we have General, what's his name, coming in on Thursday?
General Boykin.
Yeah, General Boykin. He's going to be on, great guy. He's coming in on Thursday. Will you come in with him? And Tiffany, can we see if we can schedule 45 minutes or an hour? Okay. And really go through, we know where we are now.
Right.
But now the war game of getting out of this and what should be done, what needs to be done, and what people can tell. Let's work specifically on what people need to tell their congressmen, their senators, to get them awake, or their own lives to get it in order to prepare, and also their friends. A simple way to explain all of this. Can you help me on that on
I will do my best.
Thursday?
Absolutely.
All right, so he'll be back Thursday, and we'll take it with another really credible, decent, honorable man, General Boykin. He'll be here Thursday. We have premiere night tomorrow, but Thursday we'll make that happen. Thank you very much. Again, the name of the book is Secret Weapon. Highly, 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 highly recommend this. This is a story that you are going to have to expose because no one in the mainstream media will do it. And I'm telling you, you're right. You are absolutely right. Back in just a second.